how cool it is for me to be here. Somebody asked earlier, man, you're always here. I think, excuse me, I'm finding cold. Somebody said earlier, man, I always see you here. Well, because there's a lot of great things happening in South Texas. Did you ever think of that? Did you ever think of all the great things that are happening in your backyard? I mean, so yeah, I was here last Thursday because we rolled out and our good friends from the Educational Service Center here in back with Gear Up. Last week, we actually challenged other regions, the ESCs around the state, to do this FAFSA challenge. And we were working with employers. RGB Focus was part of the group. Can you imagine that? Encouraging young adults to apply for financial aid? I mean, that's one of the obstacles of many of the students are not going to college. They're not going to college because they're not filling out the financial aid. Isn't that crazy? I mean, why aren't we encouraging our folks to do that, right? And so the other thing I wanted to share with you is how cool it is for me to be here and to share with you, especially, so we're talking about National Apprenticeship Week, right? Well, that's not what Governor Abbott's saying. See, Governor Abbott's saying we're celebrating Texas Apprenticeship Week, because that's what we're doing. We're celebrating it this whole week. Just Monday, I was at Raytheon, Civil Defense Company. You know, these guys are doing lasers, they're doing these fighter jets. I mean, our folks, I know the gentleman that was just here right now speaking, I mean, that's kind of the work that he's doing. And we had kids from the valley. We had a kid from San Benito that was working there and came up to me and said, "Are you a 956er?" He said the same thing I heard earlier when I was, isn't that crazy, the language that you high school kids speak? But the guy's working at Raytheon, and he's from San Benito, Texas, and I said, "I'm sorry to hear that you're from San Benito." But how cool was that? And then I've been at NASA where I'm hearing the same thing, where I have girls that are following a discussion when I'm talking to girls about the value of STEM and apprenticeship programs. And girls come up to me and say, "You know, sir, I didn't want to interrupt your speech, but when you finished, I wanted to let you know I'm a 956er. I heard you're from the Valley." How cool was that? Because these two girls that came up to me were wearing shirts that said NASA from Edinburgh and Ed Calchelso. How cool is that? Hispanic girls. I mean, that's your community. So lots of times people ask me, "So you're back here again?" Yeah, I'm back here again because I want to share with you all the great things that you all have been doing. Now, you may see this picture that's here behind me, and I have it up there for a reason because we've been hearing a lot about this apprenticeship nurse, right, that we're trying to implement. Do you know that South Texas College is the only college in the state that actually submitted their application? And we're this close. I knew Dr. Smiley was going to clap. Did you know that we're like this close? I mean, we were hoping that today, just like Desi said, we were hoping that today we were going to make the announcement that this had been approved. Now, there are other colleges that have been involved, believe me. You see there, MD Anderson, Baylor Scott and White, Dell Medical, Valley Baptist, you name it, DHR. These hospitals have been there since day one. Tell me any other agency that has assembled such a group. And from day one, South Texas College was in those discussions. Dr. Valerio and his team, what a champion that he's been throughout this whole process. Valley Grande Institute was there as well. We were talking about these transferable credentials. Look, I'm glad that Jim Darling's here. I don't call him Darling, that's his real last name. But Jim Darling, who used to be the mayor of McAllen, is here, represents one of the finest institutions of higher ed in UTRGB. And the idea that we can get students that are interested early on about attending school. Look, I know that there are institutions of higher ed like Valley Grande Institute or Vanguard or some of the other schools that offer phlebotomy. But wouldn't it be cool if we could tell this young girl right now that you're going to graduate as a BSN and we're going to pay for your education starting today, and that program may exist if we go to South Texas College, because our goal, thanks to Carlos Madrigal and his team, having these individuals graduate from high school and get and have that employment with DHR, Valley Baptist, or some of these other employers in the area, and say, we're going to hire her. And she's getting paid through the employer while she's going to class on our dime, through the employer as well, getting paid by them, with benefits, vacation time. Isn't that amazing that what we're doing? I mean, you talk about not wasting anyone's time. I could see that her mother was crying when she mentioned that we as an agency did something for that no one in the country's done. So yeah, I was invited to go to the White House, and they wanted to know, what is it that you all are doing? I showed them this picture, and showed them that we were assembling people from throughout the state of Texas, and that we, as a commission, appropriated and allowed for our students to go in through those clinicals paid. Because she said it earlier, that some students have a challenge. They have to decide, do I want to continue my education if I have to quit work to do my clinical work? So we took WIOLA funding, and we said, could we allow those students to get paid while they're in class or doing those clinical works? We had never done it before, and we did. Every person that was up there in DC when I was there wanted to know, how'd y'all do that? That's amazing. That was just one thing we did. We've been listening to healthcare professionals. Another thing that we're doing right now, you heard Desi Holmes talk about child care development. But do you know that Valley Baptist Medical Center here in the Valley has an on-site TRS provider, Texas Rising Star, to kind of help alleviate or help with that pressure of nurses who want to continue maybe a second shift, but can't because they got to get off and go pick up their kids. We now allow, through child care funding that we received through this administration, the opportunity for for employers or businesses to have on-site child care. Isn't that amazing? Now, this whole process took time. You see, we have a group of people that are sitting right here to my left, or I should say my right, and they're called co-located educational specialists. What are those? These are people like Jasmine and David that are embedded in the school districts. You heard from Frank Almaraz. They're embedded in the school districts, and they're helping students when it comes to informed decisions of what they want to do. You see, what I love about what the Rio Grande Valley does is we provide students with options. You want to be an HVAC? Be an HVAC. You want to be a CDL driver? Be a CDL driver. We're not discouraging those folks to do that. That's Dr. Fleshman. We're encouraging folks that there are options out there. You see, one of the things that I say about apprenticeship programs is two things. One is an apprentice is going to be an employer someday or an entrepreneur, and it's obvious here. But apprenticeship is the other college. You see, look up what higher ed is. Higher ed is anything after high school. So we're not discouraging those individuals if they want to go into the skilled trades. And by all means, ladies and gentlemen, allow them to do that. Don't discourage them, because what we have done best as a state is we've allowed these individuals early on to articulate these programs thanks to Governor Abbott. See, back in 2016, he charged us, TEA and higher ed, to work together. And we wanted to make sure that those 24 to 35-year-olds possess some type of credential. They're possessing a credential that's going to make them succeed. And we're working with our fellow agencies to make sure that every person has an opportunity, as I referenced, to succeed. And how are we doing that? Those stackable credentials. You want to be a phlebotomist? Someday those courses that you're taking now, like this young lady's doing, will translate into something like an RN program, an LVN program like her mother. We're going to have those positions available, and hopefully at no expense to her, because that's what we do best. You see, during the pandemic, we had 70 companies come into this great state of ours. 70 companies, global companies, came into this great state. We've all heard of them: Amazon, Oracle, all these companies you're hearing about, and some of those companies are actually here in the Valley as well. I mean, we have a Tesla service center in Brownsville. We fix Tesla vehicles in Brownsville. How many other places does that nearby? Isn't that amazing what we're doing? Somebody asked me earlier, why do our kids leave this area? They're not leaving because there are no jobs. We have plenty of great careers in South Texas, whether it's through LNG, advanced manufacturing, and especially in healthcare. And all of these careers that I just referenced are all apprenticeable because of you. You all made it possible for this agency of ours to become labeled as an apprenticeship ambassador. And I was fortunate enough to be selected by the Department of Labor to go out there and kind of promote it. But it wasn't really that hard, Because I had groups like Carlos Margo and Dr. Solis and the others that said, hey, we have this program that we want to implement, and it's in making beer, brewmaster courses. Were you aware that we're the only brewmaster course in the country? In the country? Were you aware of that? 5x5 just down the street? Were you aware of that? I know Carlos is when he remembers, because he's always there. But how amazing is it that we live in a region where there is so much activity, so much activity. I mean, think about all the expansion that's taking place, you know, the collaboration between what Brownsville's doing in their school districts, promoting CTE like with Dr. Fleischman and Dr. Chavez. They're doing great work out there. Mario, who worked with Toyota, who was here earlier, I mean, they donated a robot to one of the high schools for training. You have a lot of people that are outside the valley that want to make sure that we can succeed here. The JET grant, Jobs Education for Texans. You kept hearing that. That's actual equipment that we're going to be able to team up with Keith Patridge, because he's got a company. See, this is hush hush. I'm not going to share too much. We have a company that's really interested in coming here. And why? Because we have the skilled workforce. That's why we do so well. It's because we have always been proactive in the approach of how we train folks because of community colleges and institutions of higher ed. We can, you know, somebody asked, can I actually locate in South Texas? Sure. What is it that you need? Well, do you have the skilled workforce? Sure we do. And if we don't, we'll make sure that we have it. Working with institutions like South Texas College, Texas Southmost, TSCC. Man, you have some of the finest institutions of higher ed in our backyard. Don't take that for granted. I mean, the fact that I hear a kid who looks super young sitting here to my left, and he's an aerospace engineer. And I said, no way, he's not an aerospace engineer. He couldn't have said that. He's got a master's degree. And he's going through an apprenticeship program. How amazing is that? You know, I have right here Carlos Martinez, who had a robotics course for Camp Code for Girls. One of the programs that we actually deliver, we fund that. And one of the programs was awarded in South Texas through, with I think, La Jolla ISD. Isn't that great? That we have these young girls, these young kids that are so interested in STEM. And those positions are available. Those positions that we have in STEM are here. Jason Arms with First Robotics does great work with that. I ask that you continue supporting these programs. Man, I went to one of the board meetings where Carlos and Leo and Mr. Martinez and I were at, where we were talking about these young girls and young kids that were in these STEM programs. My God, we made it possible because these conversations that we had about these various initiatives that we roll out come from suggestions from you all that say, why can't you do this? See, Mario asked me earlier, you know, you should, these grants that you all have, you should kind of, you know, I think you mentioned flexibility with in-demand occupations that are out there. Well, you don't necessarily need to be on that list because the brewmaster, you don't have to be on that list for that grant. Our challenge is, ladies and gentlemen, what you've put together here, mentioned earlier by some of the folks, this needs to be replicated in other parts of the state. Conversations with higher ed, conversations with folks that represent the business community, the ISDs, the nonprofit sectors. We need to continue having these discussions. We need to have these discussions. And there are other populations that are out there that are apprenticeable, that we deal with. Those individuals that are transitioning out of military service. Those individuals that have been transitioning out of foster care. We do a really good job of that here in the Valley. One that I would like to see us be a little bit more involved in, and those are people that have been touched by the justice system. There are a lot of people in South Texas that are back in our community that were formerly incarcerated. What are we doing to serve that community? Are we giving them that opportunity to succeed? See, we're having discussions with various healthcare systems, and I won't mention which ones, where we're asking them, would you allow us to train individuals that have been formerly incarcerated? and work at your hospital. Now, we understand the limitations and the liability. We just want to see if that's possible. Or even in other sectors. Are you as a company willing to take the chance of maybe giving somebody who's been incarcerated an opportunity to succeed? So really, I'm here to talk to you about apprentices. In 2016, when I first took on this job, I knew nothing about apprentices. But I traveled the state, I listened to folks like Carlos. I was here in 2016 when we were doing a tour that Governor Abbott again asked us in higher ed and TEA to listen to stakeholders and find out what is it that we could do together collectively. We're the only state in the country that does that, where we work with our higher ed partners and then of course our folks K through 12. A lot of great things have happened as a result of that. The expansion of JET grant, the equipment that's being awarded, the skills development grants that are being awarded so that we can do actual training, the upskilling, the reskilling that you heard earlier from Keith Patridge. There are a lot of things that are going on. You live in a very vibrant community and region. That's why I'm here. That's why I always come. Because there are so many great things that are happening here and your unemployment rate continues to drop. See, when myself and Jim Darling were here, when we were in high school, you know, the unemployment rate was like 28%, 30%. We were farming in an agricultural community. Now we're in IT, LNG, space exploration. I mean, look at what's happening in your community. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for allowing the Texas Workforce Commission to be a part of those conversations. But I'll tell you who the real champions are when it comes to apprenticeship. One of them is this lady that's sitting here in front of me. Desi Holmes, everything she touches has turned into gold. Everything that she has touched has turned into gold. And she doesn't like to hear that. I know she's going to tell me off when I leave. But I really mean it. I just have the luxury of being able to sign those checks when I come down. And then the person who's, I consider is the real commissioner of the Texas Workforce Commission representing labor, those 14.5 million workers here in this great state of ours, the second largest workforce in the country, behind California, is Jeanette De La Cruz, my chief of staff. My God, these are the folks that are listening to you. We go back and we say, how can we put that in play? And we've done a pretty good job of that. I think we've done a pretty good job of that. Generally, my role when I come somewhere, I just like to brag about the community where I'm in. And I just really want to pat all of you on the back because you make my job so much easier when our great governor is able to kind of, have these conversations with companies like the Teslas and the Amazons and the Googles and all of those people that are looking at coming into this great state of ours. You know, he does great work. He does amazing by attracting these companies, and we're here to support that through our local 28 workforce boards, through the commission. We want to make sure that we have a skilled workforce. How could we not come to South Texas College during Texas National Apprenticeship Week and celebrate this with you? So, I was hoping that we could have given you some good news that this nursing apprenticeship was approved by the Department of Labor, but we haven't heard anything yet. So I want to make that clear. I don't want anybody to go out there and say, okay, we got it. But what we do have is the funding to pay for clinical work. We do have that. And we are continuing to look at ways to make other occupations apprenticeable. See, because as you heard earlier, it used to be just in construction, iron work, electricians and all that. Now we're in IT, CompTIA certifications, cybersecurity, as I just referenced. Some of these occupations that are in demand, we're making these occupations, the other college, an option for our young adults. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we want to do? Don't we just want to provide our children with a better lifestyle and a better life than we have? And let's listen to them. If they want to do this, let's do it. Because what we're doing here at South Texas College is making sure that these courses are transferable, stackable, and that we can hopefully have every student come through our school complete almost debt-free with the help of organizations like me that work there. So, with that said, I have something that I want to present to Dr. Solis and Dr. Carlos Margo. On behalf of Governor Abbott, our great governor of this great state of ours. And Desi Holmes, I asked that Desi join me. We are going to present to them a proclamation that is observing Texas Apprenticeship Week. And so with that said, I would like for Desi to present to both Dr. Solis and Dr. Carlos Margo this proclamation on behalf of the governor, and congratulations to you.
How about that?
I'll have you read it if you want. All 2 pages of it.
Ready, 1, 2, and right here.
So we have another one that we want to present, and so we were hoping Joey Trevino was here, but unfortunately he's in Austin, so we kind of switched the locations. But is there somebody here from the Associated General Contractors that's here? I know we had, Norma was here earlier, she was just on a panel. She may have left. We're going to drop one off with them. But we wanted to also congratulate them, and of course that was because of the collaboration between them and South Texas College, making sure that that was successful. Ladies and gentlemen, this picture that you see before you, this was the same picture that I've been showing around the state. Thank God I'm wearing the same suit. But this is this to me, I've been there almost 7 years with the Texas Department, with the Texas Workforce Commission. And I have to tell you that there's a lot of work that I'm very proud of that we've done. The outreach specialist is one of those that I am just like very proud of, one of those initiatives that I rolled out. But this one right here, I had to take that picture because it was the first time that I could imagine, that I know of, that a convening with healthcare systems from around the state, workforce boards, community colleges, nonprofits, career schools were involved in discussions. And there's Dr. Valerio, and you see Valley Grande Institute there, you see all the other schools. We have DHR was there, Valley Baptist was there, Stephen, Dr. Fleischman, you see the blue shirt is there. How cool was that? And you had a great representation there at those meetings. So congratulations to you, the Valley, for that. And hopefully Department of Labor will make an announcement soon. We're hoping they will. So thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to be here.